Oh, hi there. Name is Gary Vanden Lockbottom, here in glorious lockdown land. And today we're going to talk about Thieaudio. It's a Chinese brand manufacturer. They debuted in 2019 with their full-size planar magnetic headphone, the Thieaudio Phantom, which I thought was overhyped and overpriced somewhat. And since then they've released a series, well, two different series of in-ear monitors. And I reviewed one recently, which was this one. This is the Thieaudio Voyager. It's a triple driver balanced armature with 3 balanced armature drivers. Pretty good. Retails for about $189. And today I'm here to talk about the Thieaudio Legacy 3 custom variant. The custom variant is priced, if I remember correctly, at $179, so less than $200 for a custom in-ear monitor. We'll get back to that later. And about, I think it's $119 for the universal model. Now let's break down what's inside. It's got a single dynamic driver for the bass, and it's got 2 Knowles balanced armature drivers for the mids and treble. And have a look at the glory. The glory. There are a few different designs and patterns available. This one I believe is called China White. I didn't choose it, but I just let Linsol choose at their discretion a pattern, and they chose this one. I'm guessing for me it's a little bit feminine, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the fellas out there will feel the same way. But as I said, there are other designs available. They've got a clockwork one, they've got a really nice black and blue and purple design one. I'm not sure what that's called, but anyway, back to these. So what can you expect for a custom in-ear monitor for $179? Like, seriously, I don't think I've seen one priced that low before ever. And on top of that, it's a triple driver hybrid, you know. So I didn't have high hopes, I'll tell you that. Although I did like the Voyager, it didn't wow me. So I really didn't know what to expect. Now, when I first saw these, I knew right away just from looking at them initially that the build was very good. It's honestly, it's comparable to some of my high-end custom monitors that cost $500, $600, $700, $800, even up to $1,000. The build doesn't really get better than this, and that's because nowadays a lot of these companies are using 3D printing. So if you give them a good set of ear impressions and they have good printing equipment, then you can expect a pretty solid result. Of course, they're finished by hand, they're polished, and the design is laid on by hand. But anyway, despite the somewhat feminine pattern, these are beautiful in my opinion. I would have preferred something else, but you know what? I don't really care. I don't really care that much anymore. Maybe if I was a younger guy, I'd care how they look, but nowadays it doesn't bother me that much. But I'm rambling. I digress. So the build is fantastic. 2-pin connector. It's not recessed. It's flush with the edge of the shell. You've got a small vent there for the dynamic bass driver to feed it a bit of air. Got a dual bore nozzle going on there, and that about sums up the build pretty much. They're very light. The other standout feature here are the tuning switches on the back of the IEM. 2 switches, 2 positions, either up or down or on or off. The one on the left controls the bass, and the one on the right controls the high frequency, so the upper mid-range and the treble. So in total, you get 4 different tuning options that you can choose from. or you can mix and match. And you get all this for $179, and I'll keep coming back to that because it's just unheard of. It hasn't been done before at this kind of price. It's insane. So I'll quickly talk about comfort, but like I always say, it's going to depend, one, on getting good ear impressions to the manufacturer, so they've got a good base to start from. And then from there, it's a bit of luck and, you know, the builder's skill and whatnot. But these are as comfortable as any of my other customs. So with that out of the way, let's get right onto the sound. Overall, the general sound signature of these is very balanced. They do have a little bit of a punchy bass, but it's not boosted as such. It's fairly neutral. The mid-range is quite neutral, and the treble, I would say the treble is just a little bit subdued. It's not dull, but it's just a little bit rolled off. So it's kind of a relaxed treble. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk first about the bass. The bass on these is, frankly, it's just fantastic. It's really surprising. It's a fast bass. It's got good texture. It's got good definition, and at the same time, it's got that dynamic punch. It's got that dynamic weight to it. It pushes air, it moves air, and you can feel that. And when there are sub-bass notes, despite the quantity of the bass being fairly light, when there are deep sub-bass notes, you can actually feel that within the shell, sort of vibrating lightly in your ears. And that's something that balanced armature bass doesn't really do that well. So yeah, the bass is fantastic, really good. I love the quality of it. What I'm hearing with these is actually a bit different from what I've heard, what I've read about on the forums. Other people are saying about the universal model. They're saying it's got a fairly big bass. I haven't found that with these, so either I'm just hearing it differently, or there is a slight variation due to the fact that I'm listening to a custom set and everyone else that I've read or seen is talking about the universal model. So it could be that. Anyway, moving on to the mid-range. The mids, like I said, they're fairly neutral. They are a little bit on the thin side, but I wouldn't call them mids cold. That generally is in correlation with a more forward treble, which these don't have. So the mid-range is it's fairly neutral, it's fairly lean, but it's not recessed, it's quite forward. Because of the lightness of the bass and the treble, the mids are quite forward on these. And they're very smooth. They're not ultra detailed, but they are fairly detailed. Vocals sound really good on these, both male and female vocals. Good, nice amount of texture, good density, good vocal density. They're sort of positioned at the front of the stage, while the stage itself, the soundstage itself, has a neutral position. But the mid-range is really nice. It kind of reminds me a little bit, I don't know why, it reminds me a little bit of the Tin Hi-Fi T2, which is also on the thin side. Although the Tin 2 has a bit more treble than these, but yeah, the mid-range, they have that kind of character. And yeah, character is something I'm going to talk about later as well, but let's talk about the treble real quick. It is crisp, it's nicely defined, but like I said, it is a little bit subdued, it's kind of relaxed, but it's not overly soft. These don't have a dark sound due to a lack of treble. It is there, it's just slightly behind the upper mid-range and the core mid-range, I would say, and the bass, but only slightly. And I really like the treble. It is non-fatiguing, there's no sibilance, there's no harshness, and it feels fairly light and airy as well, but it's just happens to be very smooth, and I like that a lot. So overall, these have a pretty impressive sound. Like In terms of in-ear monitors in general, within the $100 to $200 range, if these were a universal model, I don't know if I would be as impressed, because there is a lot of great stuff between $100 and $200 out there on the market. But the fact that these are a full, proper custom set, that's why I'm so amazed at the performance and the sound, because of the fact that at such a low price you're getting a custom set that actually sounds good. And that is, well, it's the first time I've ever seen it. And it will be interesting to see how the rest of the market will react to this, because if Thieaudio keep pumping out stuff like this, and if, you know, with experience they're bound to do even better, man, this could really shake up the market. This could be a game changer. And in terms of Soundstage, the Soundstage is a bit elongated, so it's quite deep. It has a lot of depth, but only average width, so it's sort of elongated shape like that. Instrument separation is good. It's not great. It's not the best I've heard in this price range. Imaging is pretty solid as well. It's not ultra precise, but it is pretty good. You get a good idea of positioning within the stage of various instruments and vocals. So the Soundstage is quite good. Not groundbreaking, but definitely nothing to be upset about for sure. And the light airy treble helps with that a lot. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with the sound of these. Now I know that people are going to want a comparison with the Voyager 3 here. So I'll just quickly go over the differences. I found obviously it's not going to have the same bass extension because it's a balanced armature driver, so the bass cannot stand up in authority to the Legacy 3. In terms of mid bass, they're both fairly similar, kind of punchy, but not overly boosted, definitely not a bass head set. So the main difference in the bass is in the bass extension and the sub bass. These don't really rumble. The Voyager 3 doesn't really give you that rumble as most balanced armature bass earphones don't. In the mid-range, I would say the Voyager 3 sounds a little bit sweeter. It has rounder notes and it's just a little bit smoother and slightly fuller in the mid-range. And on top of that, the Voyager 3 does have a more forward treble as well. Not by a great deal, but it is a bit more lively in the treble, which gives it a slightly bigger soundstage I think than the Legacy 3, but the Legacy 3 has more depth to the stage, and I prefer the soundstage on the Legacy 3. It just feels a bit more natural to me. So yeah, that's just a quick summary between the two. If I were to choose, obviously I would take the Legacy 3 if for nothing else, just for that dynamic bass, for that extra kick and that sub bass rumble that you get. But I'm not saying the Voyager 3 is bad, I'm just saying I prefer personally the Legacy 3. Let's talk about this cable real quick. It is the same as the one that came with the Voyager 3, but this time I got a 4.4mm balanced termination. Lovely, lovely, beautiful uniform braid. Very malleable and supple cable. It handles beautifully. There's no microphonics. Lightweight aluminium plug and wire split with a chin slider. Aluminium color coded 2-pin connectors and very flexible, very light preformed ear guides. So great cable, can't complain, absolutely love it. Oh, and by the way, they came in this case. I don't know if all the custom ones, I assume all the custom ones custom models will come in this case, but I am not sure. I saw that the universal ones have proper packaging. I don't know why the customs do not. Whether that changes or not, I do not know. This is Chi-Fi, remember, and anything goes. They just mix and match and change things up all the time. But anyway, this is a pretty nice case. The earphones do fit inside pretty comfortably, but when you add this fairly thick cable as well, it does get a little bit tight, but for the most part it's fine. Nice little case. Anyway guys, that is it for the Thieaudio Legacy 3. Conclusion, look, if you have been tempted to try a set of custom in-ear monitors and you have not taken the plunge because you felt the price was prohibitive, which yeah, they have been in the past, traditionally very expensive, less than $200. Keep that in mind, less than $200 with tuning switches, with a fantastic build, with a good sound. Obviously recommended. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, Parfam audiophile style. And if you want to see more like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see you later.